I just got back from a very fast 24-hour trip to Olympia, the purpose of which was to testify about our state's budget. I haven't talked much about our legislative work this year because, frankly, there hasn't been very much to say. In Washington state, our legislature only meets for 60 days in even-numbered years, and only for 120 days in odd-numbered years, because we budget in 2-year cycles. And since this is a short session, and since the last thing we worked on was funding for a study of the Skookum House program that hasn't been completed yet, Skookum hasn't been working on a particular agenda this year. Instead, we're mostly laying back and waiting for the study of Skookum House to be completed. I have a meeting about that early next month. It's moving slower than I want, but progress is progress. But Skookum isn't the only organization I'm involved with that does advocacy work. I also serve on the board of the Washington Association of Children and Families, or WACF, which is an association of organizations like Skookum who work in or near foster care. So Skookum has been pretty chill, but WACF has been working on a few things, including a rate increase for child placing agencies, or organizations like Skookum that train, license, and support foster families. Independent research groups studied the vendor rate in 2018 and found that it's about half of what it costs to do that work. So across the state, all the agencies like Skookum who train, license, and support foster parents are losing 50 cents for every dollar of work that they do. And we also found that Washington is dead last, 50th, among the states for the rate that it pays to train, license, and support foster parents. So we're all, scrambling to make up the difference in one way or another. Some agencies limit the amount of foster care they do and mix it with other programs that they know they can run a surplus on. Some agencies have been drawing on a big endowment for years. At Skookum, as I'm sure you know, it's supporters like you who give faithfully month in and month out that make it possible for us to do foster care despite a woefully inadequate vendor rate. So, with all of that as context, WCF has been working on the vendor rate for child placing agencies. And it's felt like a long shot, honestly. This is not a budget year, which means the legislature usually only does fixes or emergencies. By several metrics, this is an emergency, but that can be a tough case to make. We are very fortunate, and a rate increase was included in both the House and the Senate's budget. 7.5% increase in the House and an 18% increase in the Senate's budget. Little disappointed in those numbers. It's been more than 20 years since that rate was adjusted in a substantial way, and we were asking for and really need a 100% increase. But not bad for a short session. On Friday, the fiscal committees scheduled hearings on both versions of the budget for Monday at 3:30. So I booked a hotel room and drove down Monday morning. The budget itself was released mid-morning. I met just after lunch with some other folks from WCF, and we drafted our remarks. 2 of us testified in the House, and 2 of us testified in the Senate. I was on the Senate team. There were 90 people testifying about the budget in total, so we each got 1 minute to speak. So that means I spent 6 hours driving, 2 hours meeting, 2 hours waiting, plus an overnight stay in Olympia in order to testify for 60 seconds. Hey, that is the job. Legislative advocacy is a lot more like visiting the DMV than you might expect. And we're hopeful. The fact that it's in both budgets is a really good sign. And maybe we'll have a shot at more comprehensive reform next year. We'll see.